Landscape pictures are very, very simple to set up. It's not a problem. Your mode dial, you'll notice up here, does have a landscape scene mode. And this option will optimize the camera for taking pictures of landscapes, but you have really very, very little control over any of these settings. So instead of using this mode, what I prefer using is, like most other scenes, go back to P for Program. This will give us control over all these settings. I need to maintain an ISO of 100. This is a landscape, so go ahead and use a tripod if there isn't enough light. If this is broad daylight, then you should have absolutely no problem with an ISO of 100. The ISO button, if yours is not set to 100, is located right here. With your index finger, you can press that and use the up and down navigation buttons to move the highlighted portion to indicate 100, then press set. Your white balance should be set to daylight. We're outdoors, so go ahead and press WB for white balance. Your daylight option is great when you're outdoors and there is broad daylight. However, if it is a cloudy day, you can warm up the tones a bit by choosing cloudy or even shade. This will warm up the tones even more. I'm going to go ahead and choose daylight for my picture and then press set. Now everything is pretty much set up just fine. There's really just one last thing that you're going to need to do, and that is set your aperture to the smallest aperture size possible, or the largest f number. Now you may be asking yourself, well, why are we using the program mode if we want to set the aperture? Shouldn't we be using the aperture value mode? Well, normally I use program, so as opposed to changing the mode dial and then going about setting my aperture, I just keep it on program, and what I can do is just press the shutter button halfway, and since I'm not using the flash, you would not be able to do this if you were using the flash, but since I'm not using the flash, if I press the shutter button halfway, you can see that the shutter speed and aperture value are displayed here in the back. They're also displayed in the viewfinder if you're looking through there. And then before these values go away, I just turn the dial so that my f number is up at f20. I can go up to f22 even, really whatever I want. And I can see as I'm turning this what my shutter speed is at. So this is why I prefer using this mode, because it's a live preview of what my shutter speed is going to be. This is a landscape, so what I need to have is a large f number or a small aperture opening so that everything is in focus. But I also want to make sure that the shutter speed doesn't go below 1/60th of a second, assuming I'm hand holding the shot. If you're using a tripod, then this number is really irrelevant, so it's not a problem. But if you're not using a tripod and you're outdoors and it's broad daylight, you really shouldn't be running into any issues with the shutter speed because you'll have so much light, it'll be just fine. So you'll also be able to have a large f number and a fast shutter speed. So once your aperture opening is nice and small so that everything is in focus, go back and press the shutter button again so those values do not go away. And focus on your target. Remember, we set up the center focusing point in the Getting Started guide. So put that center focusing point on the horizon or anything at a great distance. Press the shutter button halfway. Make sure you do that before these numbers disappear, because then they'll go back to their default values and you'll have to roll the dial again. So press the shutter button halfway, roll the dial, press the shutter button again halfway to focus, and then press the shutter button the rest of the way to take the picture. To find out much more about digital photography and your digital camera, go to lbguides.com.